The WIEN Women Podcast series is an initiative of the Women in Energy Network and features carefully curated conversations with female entrepreneurs and professionals across the oil, gas, power, and renewable energy sectors in Africa. The conversations in this series seek to redefine female leadership in an industry that is still largely male-dominated.
In each episode, we interview a WIEN woman about how they did it, what they wish they knew prior to starting, and what advice they have for upcoming leaders in this industry. Get ready to be lifted, empowered, and inspired. This is Charlotte Essiet.
And I'm Rola K. Akinkugbefaleni, and you're watching the WIEN Women Podcast.
Season 2.
Season 2, that's correct.
With us, we have this beautiful lady. She is Ganiyat Seriki.
Yes, Ganiyat.
Great to have you with us.
Thank
Ganiyat.
you.
Ganiyat.
Happy to be here.
Great.
Fantastic.
So you're a senior associate at Olaniwa Ajayi
Yes,
Law
I
Firm,
am.
and you're doing a lot. You're part of the Women in Energy Network. You're a
Yes.
lawyer. You're financing projects in the energy sector. Tell us a bit about yourself.
So like has been said, my name is Ganiyat Seriki. I'm a senior associate in the power and infrastructure team at Olaniwa Ajayi. So a lot of the work that we do is we work on complex project financings, project development, M&A, corporate restructuring, all within the energy sector. And then we also do a lot of work within the infrastructure sector. So in terms of road projects, rail projects, bridges, either with the government or private projects. So it's a broad spectrum of work that we do within the team. And I've been able to work on all those transactions during my time in the team.
Fantastic. So you're getting quite a lot of responsibility early on in your career, financing big ticket projects. So what actually drew you to the Women in Energy Network?
Yes, so it actually stemmed from my role now within the firm. So over the couple of years, I started there as an NYSC associate, and then I became an associate. And once I became a senior associate, we had a couple of sessions within the firm, and then they told us about around building your profile, in the industry, putting yourself out there. And so I started researching sort of what kind of communities to join, what kind of people to be around and to interact with in terms of building yourself, both personally and professionally. And I'm someone that I'm very much interested in women empowerment, development of women, because even though in my law firm, there isn't the male and female dynamics is pretty balanced. But when you go for events within the industry, you see that it's still pretty much a male-dominated industry. So in looking at me building my profile and trying to be that person that my firm wants to be in that position, I started researching communities to join. And this was one of the communities that attracted me based on people that are members and based on, the events and things that happen within the community.
Fantastic. We should pat ourselves at the back.
We're doing
very well.
Profiling
A very great job.
Fantastic. So with yourself now, so I like to always go back to where you're coming from, because I don't think it's always been very pretty. So it's always good to have a bit of history to where you've been and where you're coming from and where you are today and where you intend to be tomorrow. So just take us through that milestone.
Okay. So I pretty much, so when I was let me go all the way back to secondary school. So when I was in secondary school, there was a lot of, you need to be a lawyer, this. But then I actually wanted to be an economist. That was what I wanted to do. So I was taking the science classes. And I remember there was one time I went for there was this course we had called Further Maths. And then I went into the classroom and I was completely lost. That was the day I decided, okay, I don't want to do science. Let me go into arts, like they called it then. And so I took some of literature, all those courses.
History,
and then after history, and then after that, I went to A-levels. So A-levels, I did psychology, I did sociology. And so it was during my sociology course that I started learning about, women. So when I was in secondary school, it wasn't really something that was in my radar. And I started learning about women, how women are treated in society. So that started being part of my
Your makeup.
identity. And so after that, when I was still applying to university, I was still considering economics. And then I think I didn't have the requirements because I was meant to do maths, but I didn't do that great in maths in secondary school. So I decided, you know what, let me do law. And then the course was great. I remember in my third year of university, I tried to do some business courses just to see if, this is the right path for me. And then and then it was pretty clear to me that I was on the right path.
Was your thing.
And then after my university, I came back to Nigeria for law school. And even then, because there was some delays between after university ended and when law school was starting, and I decided to go into banking because then I think it was Access Bank. They had come to the UK to sort of recruit people, and I went for the recruitment event. So I said to try my hand in banking, let's see what law school says. And my law school results weren't out then. So I worked in, I think, internal audit and compliance. And I remember every day I would go into work and it just seemed like I was doing the same thing, confirming the same points, investigating the same thing. So I knew pretty early that I wasn't going to spend a lot of time here. And then, law school results came out and I did really well. And then people kept telling me, you can't leave this law, you have to go into law. And so then I decided, okay, let me put out a couple of applications, and then I got into the firm I work in now, Olaniwon Ajayi. So I remember even during the interview, people were asking me, "Oh, do you know this partner?" I was like, "Me, I'm just here."
Because you were wondering how you made it.
I just said, "Well, I'm just here. I'm just trying my hand." And then apparently I did well. Even years later, I still ask because now I'm friends with the people who interviewed me. Did I really do well during the interview? So then I went into law, and I've been there for the past couple of years. There's been a lot of transitions. There's been a lot of do I want to be here? But it's still sort of, I believe, the right path for me. Yeah.
Yeah. Very interesting. So what do you think is the top tip or strategy for young women who want to build a profile in the energy sector, regardless of what discipline they're in, law, accounting, and engineering, whatever the case may be? What strategies have worked for you? Obviously, you coming on this podcast is great. That's part of profile building. But what does it really take to build a profile in the energy sector?
I think one important thing is research. I believe there's so many things happening out there. There's so many opportunities. There's so many people willing to support. So once you start doing your research, start getting to know, this is happening. For instance, I went to an event a couple of weeks ago around young entrepreneurs in energy, and I didn't realize there were groups like this. So just be ready to be out of your comfort zone, because I remember I tell people, I'm internally a very shy, introverted person, but I've realized that in order to put myself out there, I need to be outside of my comfort zone. So be ready to come out of your shell, be ready to come out of your comfort zone, go for events, be commercially aware. People always laugh at me that I spend more time on LinkedIn than on Instagram, because I'm always trying to look at, what are the opportunities out there? Are there certain webinars I can go for? Are there certain events? Are there certain people that I can add? So you need to be intentional about putting yourself out there. It's not easy, because at the end of the day, everyone just wants to go about their day. But you taking that extra step, you being intentional about it would be, the key thing to take into consideration.
Great. Fantastic. I like the fact that, and I must commend you. It's very, very, you don't have a lot of people who are very intentional about everything. I remember an older auntie was saying to me, she's as intentional as the color of her shoes, color of her underwear. It's like everything is just about what is this for me? What is this doing for me? And that only taught me that you can only be intentional when you see the big picture. You might not have it now, but you're going somewhere. And so if you're not intentional, you miss that bus. Yeah. And you never get it again. So this is me saying, well done.
Thank you.
This is very impressive.
So because you get a chance to finance a lot of oil and gas deals, structure a lot of oil and gas deals and energy deals, power infrastructure. What are some of, in your minds, the sort of big trends defining the energy sector right now, whether in Nigeria, Africa, or globally, based on some of the projects you've worked on?
Yeah. I think one of the biggest trends I've seen is based around this conversation of energy transition. So a lot of projects and a lot of project developers are trying to look for a way to structure their projects in a manner that there's some sort of sustainability element to it. Because you would see now in the markets a number of DFIs, a number of international financiers, they look at, what is the overall impact of your project. And so even there's certain projects that are not necessarily sustainable, but there's always a way in which, they try to structure the project. Exactly. To take that. Exactly. Yeah. I remember I was telling someone that there was a project I worked on a couple of years ago, and the lender had such, so a lot of environmental and sustainability requirements that the project had to meet. And 1 or 2 years later, they still haven't met all those requirements. So you see now that, a lot of projects within the sector, there are some DFIs that expressly don't indulge in non-sustainable projects. So there's that move to sustainability. This will take a very long time if we start going into in terms of Nigeria with that. So there's that move to sustainability. And one other trend I'm seeing is that a lot of project developers, based on the general economics of the country and the foreign exchange market, a lot of project developers are actually looking to local investments. So before, once you want to do a project, you're looking at the IFCs, the international financiers. But now, given the Forex issues, you see some projects start, and then the project developer determines that I don't think I'll be able to repay whatever the loan I'm obtaining. And so a lot of them are now looking at, private, local financiers. So they're looking at banks. I know banks are pretty busy raising money now, but they're looking at banks, they're looking at investment companies, even international companies that are willing to provide local loans. So those are sort of the trends that I've been seeing within the market.
Yeah, very, very interesting. And so what message do you have going forward, for the future? The future of women in energy, women in financing energy projects, women doing energy law.
I think the message I'll definitely put out there is don't be willing to do what it takes within your comfort zone, of course. Because sometimes, at work, a lot of people ask me, how are you able to do this? How are you able to do that? Once you have that big picture goal, because my big picture goal is to be successful, to achieve certain milestones. I remember one of my bosses was telling me that, did you know that I made partner when in my 30s? And how old are you? So it was that sort of pressure. So once you have that big picture of where you want to get to, be willing to set your goals. So it shouldn't be, I want to get here and I'll get here. You need to break down what are the steps that I need to take to get there. So your future can't happen to you. You need to plan for it. So be intentional, set the goals.
Realistic goals.
Set realistic goals, even if it's writing down or noting down in your head, write down, these are all the steps I need to take to get here. Who are the people there that I can model myself against? What are the steps that they took? Because I'm always saying in my law firm, in terms of the female partners, like, I want to hear your story. I want to know how you got here. Like, let me write down the steps. Let me plan. So please plan appropriately. Don't let life happen to you. You have to be intentional about, going about life. That's
Absolutely.
Definitely,
Indeed.
Fantastic.
We want to hear the juice. Thank you so much. Thank you. For being intentional.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
And thank you for being in our podcast, season 2.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
It's so great to be here.
Seriki.
Thank you so much.